BrÍd Stack is an 11-time All-Ireland winner with the Cork senior footballers. Played every minute of all 11 finals?
Yeah, was lucky. I think maybe I just stayed out of Eamon's vision for a lot of it. But,
you drifted over to the far side of the pitch whenever the board was going up. Yeah. And you have announced your retirement from the inter-county game over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
32?
32, yeah.
It's no age really to be retiring.
Geez, I've plenty of miles on the clock. I suppose, look, I got my start with the Cork seniors when I was, I suppose, 15 years of age, 16 years of age, and won my first All-Ireland when I was 18. So just, I suppose, got lucky that I came in at a time when kind of we were on the rise. And I've plenty of it played and plenty of great memories, yeah.
Yeah. You stepped away last year, so you weren't involved with Cork last year, but just now retirement.
Yeah.
Why didn't you play last year, and why is this the moment you've decided actually there's no going back?
So last year, I suppose, look, we were in the initial stages of setting up our own business. Myself, my husband and his two brothers, we set up our own sports supplements and health supplements business, and it took a ferocious amount of effort. All four of us were teaching as well, but you know, no children's education was damaged, you know, in the setting up of the business, I can assure you. But yes, we were just fairly flat out teaching. All four of us teaching, coming home, turning into 5-6 hours, trying to play club. And I suppose, look, I felt, you know, that I couldn't give the commitment that intercounty kind of deserves and required, and so I just stepped away for the league. And I suppose I was hoping to come back then for championship, but as the year progressed, I suppose I was just under a bit more pressure work-wise, and so I decided to take the year, kind of, I suppose, with the intention maybe that I would hopefully be able to come back this year, but no, I suppose, look, priorities have changed, and kind of family and work have to take precedence, and I've had a fantastic time, but it's a new team now and it's time to move on.
So you're one of the lucky ones in a way, because you have the 11 All-Ireland medals in your back pocket, and we were just talking with John Giles there about players moving into management, and Paul Scholes talking about the gap and almost feeling a little bit depressed of having nothing to get to at the end of the week. You filled that gap by the sounds of it. You went straight into something that there was no spare time in the evening. You went straight into a business that was taking up every waking hour. Yeah,
that's it. So it was fairly full on last year. So I suppose that I decided last year that I'd go for a career break this year from teaching. So the other three lads are still working, and I'm kind of doing the day-to-day. But I suppose I love kind of pushing myself and challenging myself, so I kind of went back doing a bit of study as well, and that requires me kind of being up in Dublin once or twice a week. So
you don't think in 10 years that you'll look back and go, there might have been another 3 or 4 years at the very top level there?
Yeah. Do you think if you had the time and the desire, do you think physically you can still compete at the top level, the level you have been competing at?
Yeah, so I suppose in 2017 was the first year.
You were the reigning footballer of the year.
Yeah, so I went back after that. I went into the 2017. I suppose I came back maybe a little bit later. I hadn't done as much pre-season as I normally would have done, and I found myself kind of struggling with injuries all through the 2007 year. So I tore my hamstring 4 times in the space of that year, and just found it very difficult. And I suppose, look, I just felt it in my body like that maybe I wasn't able to kind of keep going, and then I felt outside of it I wasn't able to look after myself as much then with I suppose doing, you know, as much gym, you know, extra gym requirements as was needed with everything going on outside of that. So I suppose, I suppose something kind of had to give, and I was, I suppose, the very last one as well from the 2005 team. So all of my cohort group had moved on.
So Breach Corker,
Deirdre, Angela, like all of that group that I initially started with had moved on.
What was it like as year on year you saw them stepping away?
That's it, like, and it does get a bit harder, and you know, like, these are people, you know, that you know had your back, like, no matter what, and kind of had gone through a lot of kind of tough times with, and had fantastic moments with, and I suppose it just kind of got a bit harder every year without, you know, a couple of your best friends there, and it just kind of, I suppose, I found it a bit harder to get out to training as well, like,
because people always say, oh, the younger players coming through, they keep you young, they keep things fresh,
and they do, like, 100%.
Your mates aren't there anymore,
but that's it.
You don't have as much in common with the 19-20 year olds.
Yeah, that's it, like, so I don't know, I suppose, look, it just kind of came to a head last year, and I felt this year then, like, you know, I was very content in the fact that I wasn't going to be able to kind of go back, and so I rang Aoife there a couple of weeks ago and told him, and yeah, so it is a new chapter. Like yours, sure. Look, he was obviously, you know, saying that, you know, it was the doors open, but you know, I think I'm very content in my decision now, and I know, like, this new group of girls, I know there's great things destined for them as well, like, you know. So.
When you meet up, then that group said it started out together in 2005. Like, do you go, this is ridiculous what we achieved.
I know.
It is unreal.
Yeah.
They've had an inter-county career where, firstly, you end with 11 All-Ireland medals, but throughout your entire inter-county career, you played, what, 2 seasons where you didn't reach an All-Ireland final?
Yeah, so there was, 2004 was our first year with Eamon, and then in 2010 we got beaten in the quarter-final stage by Tyrone, and every other year. But, like, you know, every year had its difficulty. Like, you know, it seems like it was such a seamless, you know, decade of football. Like, but there was
Which are the ones that stand out then?
So I suppose, look, obviously from a playing perspective, my first one, I'll never forget it, like running out into Croke Park, 18 years of age, none of us had been there before. Cork had never reached an All-Ireland final before, let alone won an All-Ireland senior final, so that one will always be very dear to me. And then, of course, the 2014 comeback one will just live so long in all our memories. Like,
10 points down, what, 15 minutes left?
16 minutes left, yeah, 10 points down. It's just the stuff of dreams, like, you know, and you know, hopefully they'll make an old film about it there one day, and you know, yeah. So that was.
Who's going to play in the movie?
Oh, I don't know who could play me. I'm going to aim for someone like Margot Robbie, but it's violently out of my league. But yeah, then, and I suppose, look, the last one, 2016, will be very dear because that was the changeover of management from Eamon to Aoife. I suppose a lot of people felt that maybe a lot of our stalwarts had stepped away, that we didn't have it in the tank anymore. Dublin were the upcoming team, and I think to kind of prove to everyone that year, you know, that we still had a bit of fight in us.
I wanted to ask you on that, because it sounds like there you were kind of using a little bit of a siege mentality. Everyone's writing us off. No one really thinks we're up to it anymore. And we talked about that great Kilkenny team under Cody from 2003 to 2016, and we questioned how can they come back every summer with the same hunger.
Yeah.
You guys won 10 All-Irelands and 11, so there was clearly a danger that some staleness or complacency could set into your panel.
Yeah.
You're hearing the same voice on the training pitch every year.
I know.
So, I mean, what was it that kept this team striving to win All-Ireland effort every year, and you were never sated?
Yeah. I suppose, look, there was 2 kind of major things. Like the first one would have been in 2004 when Eamon came on. None of us knew anything about him. I suppose we were too young to kind of appreciate what, you know, he had done for various clubs and what he had played himself, like, you know, at Cork. So we didn't know kind of what to make of him, and he was very kind of standoffish, and but you knew he was highly intelligent and really calm and kind of always kind of thinking, and had a fabulous manner about him, and kind of treated everyone the exact same, no matter if you were like me, an 18-year-old, or, you know, one of the older girls that was more experienced. He treated everyone the exact same. But in 2005, the summer of 2005, he organised us to go on a training holiday to Lanzarote. So, like, something which we probably, you know, was unheard of probably for us. Like, we had heard, like, the Cork hurlers
any
won.
Ladies team, yeah,
so like the Cork hurlers won in 2005 as well. Like, and like you'd hear of them, you know, going on great trips, and you know, they were well used to kind of going away to Portugal and things like that. But you know, it was probably so far out of what we had thought ladies football was, because maybe up to that we hadn't had a massive level of professionalism. But so he brought all that in. So we all fundraised for ourselves. Everyone raised 500, 600 euro, and we all got going to Lanzarote, and he trained us into the ground for 5 of those 7 days. And I remember one of those days, we were due to be training on an AstroTurf pitch, and the pitch got pulled kind of close enough, like towards when we were going to be training, so we ended up training on the beach. And it wasn't like a nice coarse Irish beach, it was like really fine sand, like absolutely torturous stuff. And that was the day we were due to be doing our hard running. And so we did, for I'd say about 10 years straight, we did a running drill called the 3-track run, which was like 3 different tracks of varying lengths, but everyone had to come back in the 30 seconds. And I remember we did, so normally we would have done 3 of them, and I remember that day everyone was so mad and possessed, and Eamon was driving everyone on, and I remember we did 4 of them that day, like, and sure, we were coming home with like quads and calves the size of our fathers, like, you know, it was just, it was unbelievable stuff. It was deadly bonding, and I know, like, the second last night, So he gave us 2 nights out, and I remember like we were sitting in the hotel like, and it was a big sing-song like always at the start, and that was when we first realised that Eamon could actually, he was a singer, like, you know, and he was a good bit of crack, because we couldn't make him out before that. And he was great fun and loved the camaraderie, and kind of the young and the older could all kind of mesh together, and geez, we had great all crack. So like the second last night, myself and Angela Walsh organised to go get like t-shirts made up with like Langerotti on the front of them, as if the locals didn't hate us enough, like, you know, and we went out and everyone kind of had a nickname on their back, like over events that happened over the week, and there was just a deadly sense of bonding like that happened. And I think had that not, so we won our very first All-Ireland that September in 2005, and I think that was the what set the tone for the rest of it, that horrendously hard training session, but then the bond that was forged on that. And then I suppose look in 2010 when we did lose, you know, we had to kind of hold our hands up. Like there was complacency, I think, on our part, whether we like to admit it or not. Like there was, and
did he consider maybe the possibility that he had taken you guys as far as he could?
So like after we got beaten, so that was around August, I think.
Tyrone, wasn't it?
Yeah, against Tyrone, yeah. And like we had gotten beaten. We gotten beaten fairly well, like they were all over us. We gotten 2 sin binnings like that day. I may have been one of them, but it
you can't quite recall.
Yeah, I can't quite recall. And we like 2 of the girls had done their cruciate knee ligament as well in the one game. So Geraldine O'Flynn and Ciara Sullivan. And you were kind of looking, going, gee, like, is this the end of the road? Like, you know, after such a great spell. But Eamon organised a meet up in Larry Tompkins' pub in December. And we all kind of got together, and he put it to us like, you know, is this, you know, are we content with our lot? Like, and everyone was nearly foaming at the mouth, like ready to go again. And
because it'd be easy to be content. You'd 5 All-Irelands at that stage.
Yeah, but no, I suppose there was a bit of kind of, we had to redeem ourselves. There was a feeling of redemption that needed to be done. And
he seems to have been a guy, the way you're speaking about him, always knew the right words to find. Like I often heard Roy Keane talking about Alex Ferguson, that he always seemed to be so in tune with what his players, where his players were mentally, that he wouldn't throw the same old stuff out time and time again. No. That Eamon seemed to know what buttons to press.
He did,
and when to press them.
Oh, he was a consummate manager. Like he, you know, he. I think the big thing was that he gave us such ownership from a young age, and it was essentially that ownership that got us over the line on so many All-Ireland final days. Because, like, if you look back, like we got over the line, you know, by the bare minimum, like by a point in about 4 or 5 of those All-Irelands, and you have to put that down by giving ownership back to the player. And what are you going to do, like, when the chips are really down? And he did that since I was 18 years of age, and he carried that through for 11 years straight, like, you know. So
it's remarkable how 1 week can make such a difference for so long, because people need to remember, as you said, that Cork had never won an All-Ireland before 2005. Probably now people look back and think they were always this dominant force. It wasn't the case. When you were a teenager, when you were starting out playing Gaelic football, was it a realistic ambition in your head that you could play in All-Ireland finals at Croke Park?
No, sure, of course wasn't. You didn't have someone to kind of, you know, it wasn't visual for you to see, she plays with Cork seniors. No, there wasn't. Like, you know, when I look up, you know, my role models were, you know, people like Seamus Moynihan. Like, I used to absolutely adore watching Seamus Moynihan, like, playing, and then, like, I used to watch, alright, like the Camogie finals, alright, and, you know, players like Fiona O'Driscoll, like, they were, because they were visual, like, you know, but from a Cork Ladies football point of view, there wasn't that, so it wasn't ever something, you know, that was probably like in our minds that this was going to take off. But I made Cork under 14 team, and there was a fantastic group there. So on that Cork under 14 team, there was myself, Rena, BrÍd, Geraldine, Narita, Angela Walsh. There was a whole host of us, and I suppose we stayed together all the way up through. Now, granted, we had success under 14, under 16, under 18, and it's easier to stay with it when you have success. But that cohort then basically created the majority of that senior team. But, you know, even like that, I think momentum is a massive thing, and if you have a success, what it does for a team is just, you know, it can't be defined, like, really.
Corkness.
the Corkness. That's it.
Let's not get into that.
yeah. But it is like it's like infectious, like, and you want it back again. And you know, everyone turned up in that first weekend of January, like ready to go, like just couldn't wait for it again. And I suppose the big thing is that we did train and play very, very hard, but we then celebrated very hard. And I think you do need that as well. And Eamon allowed us to do that for 2 or 3 months. Like I remember the very first All Ireland, we must have visited every village in Cork, like, you know, and it was unbelievable again for bonding. And I suppose all those stories kind of kept you going throughout the year then, like, so yes, that was it.
The other one you said stood out obviously was 2014, the 1-point win over Dublin.
Yeah.
What was said? What happened that this miraculous turnaround occurs in the middle of the second half? As you say, 16 minutes left. So
because it would appear that Eamon Ryan's halftime words had absolutely no effect whatsoever.
So whose words worked? What happened?
So to like
with 16 minutes left or 10 points down, I would imagine most sports people think this is done and dusted.
Yeah. Where's the nearest bus?
Were you thinking that?
But I suppose we weren't really, because we had been in dire situations before. Obviously, nothing ever remotely close to that. But everything that could have gone wrong that morning went wrong. Like guard escort didn't turn up. We got kind of barricaded into the hotel. We ended up being late into Croke Park, something which we never were.
You were playing the Dubs.
We were playing the Dubs. Yeah. They locked us out. Yeah, and. I remember we were doing the kind of the indoor warm-up drill, and like we must have dropped about like 5 or 6 balls, and then we went out into the outdoor warm-up drill, and I'd say we dropped, you know, twice that. Like everyone was just so on edge and jittery, and it was just not like us at all. And then
and was that just because of what had happened that morning, or was there that sense?
No, I suppose there was maybe that sense, like that. Look, Dublin were the up-and-coming team, and they were just, I suppose, we never ever thought past any game, like, and I know players and teams say that all the time, but we never ever thought past a team. And I suppose that was down to Eamon kind of, you know, embedding that like kind of humility in us, like to just, you know, never underestimate your opponent. And I suppose from the 2010 we learned never underestimate, because what could happen on any given day. And when we came out in the first half, we were just blown away by Dublin. They were just hungrier, they were more clinical, like everything that could have gone wrong for us went wrong. We had no rub of the green, and then we came in at half time and we were just shaking our heads. We didn't know what to do, you know. I suppose like that, we'd never been that far back, never been that far down. And Eamon came in, and just like he did, you know, in all those years previous, just kind of said, look lads, I'll give you a couple of minutes there to chat amongst yourselves, and I'll be back in a couple of minutes. And I suppose in that couple of minutes there was we've always been very lucky to have a good couple of leaders in our team, and you know, BrÍd spoke and Angela spoke, and I suppose Angela spoke about the camogie, like, you know, 2 weeks before, like that, you know, that they had been in a similar situation, and we have to grind ourselves out, and we just needed to get the basics right. And Eamon came in, and he was just like, right lads, have we it sussed, you know, as if it was like, you know, have you it all sussed out? And he basically just said to us, look, Dublin can't score if they don't have the ball, so hold on to the ball. Like, just do the basics right. And we went out, and I think Dublin scored another goal straight off the back. We were like, okay, that plan didn't strike. That didn't work out too great. But I suppose slowly we chipped away, and Eamon made the right calls on the line. Two like massively impactful subs in Emer Scally and Rona Buckley. And the second I think Rona sank the goal, I think everyone else, like all kind of the backsides and everyone else kind of lit up, and they said, right, okay, look, you know, if nothing else now, we're going to absolutely perform and just go, kind of don't give up till it's over. And Emer Scally knitted another goal, and the girls just kept chipping away in the points. And Geraldine Flynn, like the ball fell to Geraldine, like, you know, in that last couple of seconds. And Geraldine would be the most, you know, like, she would have practiced her free taking, she would have practiced everything, like she would have killed herself practicing. And on that day she must have kicked about 3 or 4 wides, which was so unlike her, but she just backed herself on that last kick. And thankfully when it went over, geez lads, it was just the most unbelievable feeling. You didn't know whether to laugh or cry or like, and everyone was just exhausted. And I remember even that evening, like, you know, we were still just sitting down in complete disbelief. There was no kind of like jumping around the place like we normally would have been. Everyone was just like, how in the name of God do we pull that off? Like,
did you feel Dublin were starting to buckle at one stage. I mean, we look at this Dublin team now, they're ruthless.
Yeah,
the way they won that final last year, they look like a team now that if they get their heads in the right place, want to win 3 or 4 in a row. Whereas they were trying to achieve something they hadn't done for so long. They had their fair share of final heartbreak as well in the previous few seasons. And I'm just wondering, when that lead, when you got that first couple of scores, was there a sense amongst the really experienced heads in your team, do you know what, this isn't done, that we can actually take these? They are starting to look a little bit rattled because they were desperately trying to cling to that finishing line.
Of course they were, like, and I suppose with 10 minutes out you think it's game, set, match, like, you know, and then this crowd of absolute lunatics come up from the country, like, and just, you know, don't give up, like. And I suppose there was a real sense, like, in some of the older girls, like I do remember Angela and Deirdre Riley, just like, so Angela was she was either full-back or cornerback, and Deirdre was centre, and I just remember, like, the two blonde heads absolutely bombing up the field. Like, it was just a case of press, keep pushing them under pressure. And I suppose, look, they, you know, a couple of their kickouts got turned over, and it was just constant pressure. And I suppose, look, we saw maybe that, you know, if we just kept applying that pressure and keep the ball up in that quarter, you know, that it would, you know, might work out for us. And look, thankfully it did, like, so.
Eamon Ryan's someone we probably don't hear enough from. Maybe he's perfectly happy that way, I'd imagine, just sitting in the background, because, like, to have led a team to that many All-Ireland titles, like, people look for, right now in Cork football,
I know,
they're looking for the secret for the men's team. They're laying out this 5-year plan. I know he's still around, he's still involved, but, like, it's right there on your doorstep, you'd imagine.
Like, I suppose, look, every one of us bought into it. I suppose we never had any experience, though, of anything other than it. So, you know, maybe he was getting complete blank canvases, and it was very easy to do. But I suppose, look, he's a headmaster by profession, and you could just see in the way he managed his students, basically, like, you know, that he just got the best out of everyone. And I think he instilled a massive belief in us. And I suppose, coming from never having won an All-Ireland, you know, even never having won a Munster, like, we got beaten by Kerry and Waterford religiously every year, and, like, not just, like, by the minimum, like, getting beaten well, like, you know, the great Waterford and Kerry teams, like. And he just instilled a belief in us, and he just was you know, extremely calm and extremely kind of, like you say, like, was able just to pick out the correct words to say, and he just knew what would make us tick. And
did he ever lose the head?
Did that. No, like, he actually didn't, like, he would always just expect you, like, you know, you might hear, BrÍd, come on, like, as in, you know you've more in you than that, like. But he never targeted people, like. And even, I suppose, at halftime talks and you know, after match talks, he never singled out a single person. And I suppose, you know, people appreciated that, like, that even if you had a poor game, you were never singled out. If you had a fantastic game, you were never singled out. It was really a team ethos that he instilled.
Sorry, Nathan, can you talk about the 07 final? Because it's a really odd one in that, I mean, you were asked to mark Cora Staunton, and you didn't know at the time, but Eamon didn't want you to be on Cora. He didn't think you were the best player marker that Cork had defensively. You only found that out a couple of years later.
I did,
You ended up walking away with the Player of the Match award. So talk to us about your feelings that night on the eve of the game, when you know that however you play is going to have a huge influence on your team's chances of winning the All-Ireland. And then subsequent to that, when you found out that actually he didn't think you were the person for the job in the first place.
So Mary Collins, she would be from my local village, Rockchapel. She would have trained me when we were underage, but she ended up being the Cork manager for a couple of years. But that was one of her years that she was. And so the night of so basically the team would be announced, and but there was still kind of a little bit kind of up in the air about who would be on Cora. And I suppose, look, they had a little bit of a chat, and Eamon felt that Rena was definitely more of a man marker, and Mary felt that I had been playing well centre back, and just to not kind of mix things up too much. And I suppose, look, we knew that Cora, it did, I suppose, the forward game really did centre around her. So while, if it was me marking her, if it was Rena marking her, basically whenever Cora would get the ball, there would nearly be 6 of us on her anyway. And I suppose, look, it was always, we had a very strong unit in the backs always. And when Eamon came to me that night, like, I just remember kind of like, the hairs kind of standing up on the back of my neck a small little bit, like, because he never came to anyone's room, kind of like, really. And he basically just kind of said, look, you're marking Cora and you're going to do a great job. Probably through gritted teeth, because he didn't.
He'd lost the vote.
He'd lost the vote, So
it seems strange that when we're talking about the eve of an All-Ireland final, going up against this unbelievable talent of Cora Staunton, and Mayo don't win that All-Ireland final unless she plays unbelievably well. That you haven't actually spent a month in advance just thinking about how you stop Cora. That the decision is left that late.
Yeah, but I suppose, look, we never had tactics for 10 years. Like, I suppose you
are sounding like Kilkenny.
No, we really didn't. It was 15 on 15, and I think it was only towards the latter years that we had to kind of implement a few little things, and a few kind of man marking scenarios. But other than that, it was 15 on 15. So there was deadly trust there, and I suppose, like I say, like, the backs were such a cohesive unit. That back team didn't really change much over the space of 7 or 8 years. So even though I was tasked with marking Cora, I knew that Angela was behind me. I knew Deirdre Riley was there. I knew Geraldine was there. I knew Rena was there. And I suppose whenever she did get the ball, thankfully, if I messed up, I knew she had to go through Angela. She had to go through Deirdre. So there was always time to get back. And look, it worked out on the day. And then I found out 2 years later, and we're great friends though since.
Because I was going to ask how you mark Cora Staunton on an individual basis, like when you're face down in that All-Ireland final. But by the sounds of it, it's a group effort.
Sure, look, it is, and I suppose, look, she's kind of, she had the full package, she was extremely accurate. You think you ever pushed out far enough, and then she kicks an absolute boomer from the 45 and you look like a fool, but she had a desperate burst of speed. She was physically strong, physically imposing, was well able to field, so she was kind of, the full package. So I suppose your big thing was just to try to get out in front of her, and I suppose, look, maybe I had a small bit of speed as well, that kind of helped, but definitely it was a team effort, and as I said,
stop her getting the ball as opposed to trying to stop her once she has it.
Try to stop it before it gets there,
You must take enormous pride, that group who started out in 05, of the legacy you leave behind, not just the I guess what's expected now of ladies footballers in Cork, that they can go on and win an All-Ireland, and there's an expectancy that they should be contending for All-Irelands, but that very much you leave Cork ladies football as first-class citizens, that you're very much the equal or greater than the men's team, that there's a different attitude in Cork football and Cork Camogie and probably Cork Gaelic Games towards their women's teams than there is in most counties.
I know. I suppose, look, we came on 2005 was our first All-Ireland, and I remember 2005 the Camogie won, we won, and the hurlers won that year, so it was brilliant. Obviously the hurlers were seen on a different kind of pedestal to us, but I think over the years, we have probably given, Cork people a lot of enjoyment over the years, and I suppose, look, with the games going so close in the last couple of years, there's definitely been a lot of excitement with it, and I suppose, look, maybe there is that expectancy now on kind of Cork teams going forward, but isn't that a brilliant thing, that we've kind of set the bar high, and I suppose, look, that there's a belief there that, look, if you train hard enough and you work hard enough and you back each other up, that you might be in contention with getting to an All-Ireland final, and the systems are good in place, and it's just a matter of trying to keep that ethos going.
Have you got the medals all framed now?
No, I'll tell you, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago at home, we got broken into, and we didn't know where all Ireland medals were, so we found them in the back in this where you keep all your light bulbs, everyone has one of those, a box with spare light bulbs, and we found them in there. So so we've them kind of put in order now, but at least now we kind of we know where they are. So
do the medals mean much to you, or is it more the memories that you get garnered while you were winning those medals?
I suppose, look, they're lovely to have, but for many years I didn't know kind of where they were, so it was more
but I guess
the
you were
memories.
Still playing then, weren't
yeah,
you?
I suppose, look, you weren't kind of you weren't thinking about where they were, but yeah, Jesus, the memories and the fun and the enjoyment, and geez, it'll be very hard to match it. But as I said, look, life goes on and different priorities take precedence, and but fantastic memories last me a lifetime, like, yeah.
And you're on to a new part of your life. Give the business a plug.
So
30-second sales spot coming up.
Okay, coming to you live. No, so we set up our own business. It's a sports supplements and health supplements business called Core Supplements. And I suppose, look, we look after everyone from, I suppose, all different age categories to, you know, your gym goers to personal trainers, clubs, inter-county teams. We're very fortunate. We're after getting a good couple of kind of big deals now with Cork City, Cork GA, Tipperary hurlers, Laois footballers, you know. So I suppose just trying to get it out there a bit more, but so look, it's only kind of 2 or 3 years now in the running, and a lot of hard work, but very enjoyable work, something different, definitely, like, yeah, really enjoying it.
Brilliant. Very best of luck with it all over the next few years.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for coming to the studio. BrÍd Stack, 11-time All-Ireland winner. We're always telling Tommy Walsh, 10 is nothing. 10 is nothing. Come back to us when you've won more. BrÍd, great stuff.